Hello, this is a comparison between two Bluthner grand pianos, style 4, that's 150 centimetres long, and this one here is 1934, this one here 1933, but there is a big difference between them in that this one's been restored fully, including a new soundboard, and this one's been restored but in a different way, and the original soundboard. Both pianos have been supplied by Bluthners, and there's their sticker, it's on both pianos, and you can see this one here, this is the one that's been restored in a different way without a new soundboard, has almost perfect ivory keys. And this one here has not got the original ivory keys. Very nice covering though, very nice covered keys. Now this one here's got the original Bluthner polish on it, so kind of like a mahogany, and it doesn't show the grain incredibly well, but it's quite a nice finish. This is the Bluthner Grand that we've repolished. We take the original polish off and go for a polish that shows the grain a lot better, and we do antique waxing. This actually had 30 coats of polish on it, followed by antique waxing, which gives it a nice look and not too reflective, so you see the grain really well. So that's the Bluthner Style 4, the original polish on it. Now this one's been refinished. It does show the grain a lot better, but it's a kind of more like a spray sheen finish to it, not a French polish finish. It's quite pleasant. It's pretty integral all round, and hasn't got much fading. If you do have a wood colour piano, you have to be really careful they don't fade. This is the top of the original finish on the Bluthner. This is the refinished one. Shows a lot more contrast, as you can see. There's a bit of a watermark here as well on the original one. It'd be very difficult to get that off. Quite an opportunity to refinish the whole piano, really. This is the 1933 original one, this original soundboard, and you can see also that it's a little bit on the dirty side, needs cleaning, but otherwise it's really good condition, this one. Tuning pins are good, but there's one thing we need to look at which is very important if you restore especially Bluthners, because it's very easy to do. I'll show you what that is in a minute. Let's look at this other one that's been refinished. You can see the different colour soundboard. This is a new soundboard on this one, and has a slightly different tone, as we'll find out later. It's been very well restrung, and it's generally very good, very high quality workmanship here. Now you can see here I've removed some screws out of this front rail here. You'll see why in a second, and we're going to have a look at something that Bluthners have done. Now here we can see the original tuning block, which is blacked out. This is always typical Bluthner tuning block, and we'll look at the new one in a minute. Let's just have a good look at this. You can see that it is laminated, but it's difficult to pick out how much. Now here's the restored Bluthner. This is Delignate tuning block, which is one of the most common ones used, but see how many laminations there are here, and it copes a lot better with central heating, so with new tuning pins and new tuning block, it's a great idea. It's really worth doing on Bluthners, and Blutner's one of the easiest ones to do tuning blocks on. Now both of these have got ordinary roller action, which you get in all modern pianos. The older Bluthners have got what we call patent action, and this is also crossed over. Some Bluthners 1920s also have patent actions. In fact, this piano is 1925, so you have to be a bit careful with dates, because you can have patent actions in newer piano. Now, this is an extremely good piano. We're used to patent actions. We regulate them regularly. We like them an awful lot. When they're set up properly, they work really well, and the only difference being that they're not quite so easy to repeat with, but well set up, they're a beautiful feel. Here's the roller action in the other Style 4. Style 4s have always got roller actions in. You needn't worry about that. It's the bigger ones that you have to know whether they've got patent or roller action in. Now this piano has been restored without changing the tuning block, and the key thing is obviously the tuning pins are tight, and these are really tight, which is great. So they've been restored reasonably recently. In fact, there's a clue to when it was restored. Here we see written on the hammers, Renner Stuttgart. If you can focus that properly, Renner Stuttgart. And here we have an upside down date, April 1984, which is a good clue to when it was restored. The hammers are obviously made maybe before that, but was restored after that time. So the one with the new tuning block, it has slightly smaller tuning pins. They haven't gone down to the smallest size. Normally when we put new tuning blocks on, and we use Delignate as well, you get we have slightly smaller pins. You start with the smallest size, then when it needs restringing, you obviously put bigger ones in. Now back to the one with the original tuning block and soundboard. The hammers, it's been used pretty reasonable amounts, what you expect in that kind of time, from about 1984 or 5, and it needs regulation now. You can see the hammers are actually touching the rail here. When it was restored, they would have been about here. And what happens is that the roller here squashes. That's the main thing, and that makes it go down. So it needs re-regulating. I don't think it needs new rollers because they're quite smooth. Basically, if they're not smooth, well, we could put new rollers on that make it even slightly smoother, and that would also bring the hammers up. Then it needs general regulation, fine regulation. It's pretty well regulated, but it just needs fine regulation. Now here's the one with the new soundboard and tuning block, and this is Arbel hammers. That's Renner's main competitor. They're both extremely good makes of hammers, really. A lot of argument about it, but really we use both firms. We use mainly Renner because they're opposite our Seven Oaks showroom and it's convenient, but Arbel is an exceptional maker of pianos. Tell that by the green, by the way. Arbel's distinct colour is green, Renner is red. And this one too has got reasonable indentation in the hammers, not quite so much regulation needed here. The rollers are not particularly worn at all, but the piano's been used a reasonable amount, but the rollers are not too worn. So that's a comparison between two Bluthner Style 4, that's 150 centimetres pianos, been restored in different ways. In the end, of course, it's the tone and the touch that really counts. Both pianos are excellent. Both pianos will last as long as each other. Let's listen to the first one, which is the one that's not got a new soundboard or a new rest plank. The tuning pins are really tight though. It's not been tuned, this piano, by the way. It's more or less at concert pitch, but not tuned yet. These are both in for assessment, these pianos. This is the one that has a new soundboard and a new tuning block, and it's a different tone. The soundboard makes it sound different. A bit more work's been done on the action on this one too, and the touch is different. The touch is really important on pianos. The touch feels different on the other one. It has a really singing tone, or the original soundboard one. This is different. It's very pleasant indeed too, so they're both excellent pianos. Thank you very much for listening.